All right, welcome to Almost Punk Enough, brought to you by that'sgoodenough.for me.com, your home for the latest news, reviews, and ballyhoos from the punk and punk adjacent scenes. I'm Bad Dad, and joining me today is third runner-up in the 2022 Omaha, Nebraska Mitchell Goose and Hockey Surf King Cincinnati lookalike competition, Mr. Mikey Elvers. Mike, how we
Oh,
doing?
you know, I'm from Lincoln, right? That's some mean shit to say to a Lincolnite.
Well, no, they don't have Mitchell Goose and contests in
Oh,
Lincoln. You have to go to Omaha.
you're right. Wow, liquid Drano. dot dot dot. Uh, how are you? It's been a little bit.
It has been a bit. I'm well. I'm well. Do you remember that time when we wrote our names up on the wall?
Mm-hmm.
And when we remembered the Thriller was our favorite song?
Yeah. Well, I was thinking about that more recently because of that Michael Jackson biopic that's come out.
All right.
That was a
Well,
really
today
good
we're going
segue, but I can't stop looking at your avatar.
Yeah, you're punk enough. Well, yeah, that's good enough for me.
today we're going to go into what we think should be the ultimate set list for Newfound Glory. So it's one song from every full length. We're going to toss in a couple of covers, some deep cuts, some weird shit, the whole thing. But the catch is it can't be just a list of songs. We want it to be something that kind of flows and you'll learn how a show goes when it's paced properly. And I think that we kind of hit the mark here.
Yeah, I'm stoked. And for all of the listener out there, this is the same duo that brought you that Bayside, that killer Bayside set list. And I
Yeah, all of
still
our listener probably really enjoy seeing us back here.
I think back of that conversation with you, where we became even more invested in each other's bromance, thinking about our love of Bayside together. And today we're going to do the same for Newfound Glory, and my body is ready.
So what was your introduction to Newfound Glory?
Newfound Glory, um, it would have been the self-titled record came out when I was a junior or a senior in high school. Uh, I had kind of an interesting relationship with pop punk music because I got super into it when I was like entering high school, and then the like small town turd in me made me like I got like super into like Dead Kennedys and Propaganda and stuff.
Okay.
And there was this. It was like the summer before my junior year. I like kind of fell back in love with pop punk music. I realized that it made me feel happier than the like depressing Reagan era punk music that I was listening to. Um, and it didn't hurt that I had just started a shitty pop punk band of my own with my best friends. And yeah, so we were all in. So just kind of going over their discography over the last week has been a nice rekindling of my relationship with the band. And, you know, something about NFG that I think people either love or absolutely hate is their ability to turn virtually every song into like an anthem, which is again normally a positive. Some people will argue that if you put 13 anthems on a record, then you haven't really made a point. But what the result is most of these songs make me think about summer and like partying and my friends and sitting in our tour van and just positive shit. How about yourself?
Yeah, so I honestly I don't remember when the first time that I heard Newfound Glory was, other than the fact that it was when they were still a Newfound Glory. And the only reason I know that is because I saw them in '99 at a show at a firehouse in Wayne, New Jersey. They were the headliners, but they were still a Newfound Glory then. And the openers were included Piebald, Hot Rod Circuit, and Midtown, just on a nice Friday night in 1999. Um, and by then I had already known who they were. Otherwise, I wouldn't have gone to the show. So it was sometime before then.
That's nuts. And I've mentioned this before, I think, to you that like because of my run-ins historically with pop punk music and playing in a band, I got to kind of see like Yellowcard and Fall Out Boy like at the height of their determination to successfully play music for a living. And for me, anytime I hear a new Fall Out Boy song on the radio or something that is the worst thing I've ever heard since the last time they came out with a new song, I can't help but like still root for them because I remember them like pulling their guitar cases out of like a frozen trailer straight onto the stage to play a show and just crushing it, just playing so well and putting their shoestring budget together to the records that define, I guess the beginning of their discography. Newfound Glory accomplished that a little bit before my time. They were pretty established by the time I had heard of them, and everybody knew who they were.
All right. Yeah, no, like I said, it's I don't know if you know the band 25 to Life. They're a weird hardcore positive straight edge everything, but the dude looks like a crazy ass meth addict with bananas dreads and probably weighs about 82 pounds soaking wet, but he's 7'64" if I remember correctly. And he used to have his own little independent distro that he would do at all the Firehouse shows where he would just sell the CDs. And at that point I was super obsessed with Drive Through Records, based solely on the Mulletcore compilation that had come out in, I guess, 96, 97.
Mm-hmm.
So I was buying anything that had that little imprint on it. So that's where I grabbed Nothing Gold Can Stay. And obviously it continued on because here we are talking about it 20 some odd years later.
Yeah, that's fantastic. And for me, and again, I listened to a lot of these records in my tour van with my best friends, and we would hear crazy new ideas, drum parts, guitar parts, song structures for just really good pop punk songs that we had never heard of before. We'd get out of the van and go play a shitty show in Champaign, Illinois with, 25 other Blink-182 cover bands that were all just as excited about it. So it's cool. It's a cool thing to look back on.
Yeah, it's been really great watching them go through the highs and lows, and not to actually, yeah, no, entirely to be an asshole, to watch them have some hits and misses along the way.
Hey,
Yeah, see how I did that there?
that was
And that's actually what I think should be their opening track on this tour that they're on right now with Yellowcard and Plain White Tees. I think they should really kick it off with Hit or Miss. I think it's an ideal way to kind of get the energy going. It's an ideal way to make sure that the crowd's all the way invested in it, and you're going to get that participation right off the bat.
Yeah. No, I don't disagree. It's interesting, these bands that were so independently successful but didn't really ever have there's a lot of good songs on their list and some really important ones missing, but they don't have Buddy Holly and Say It Ain't So, right? So if we're going to be going through the list here, what's a song that's going to make everybody there say, I know this song? I think Hit or Miss is a very substantial example of that.
Yeah, I don't think that there's anyone that's going to those shows that hasn't sung along to that loudly in their car at the very least, if not seen it 6 or 17 times live already.
Yes.
Plus it had Corey Feldman in the video, which is one of the most endearing parts of the Drive-Thru legacy is their connection to Corey Feldman.
That's true. If they would have let him play a guitar solo on that song, then they could have been wildly successful.
Do you know why he was on that video, or how they got to know him? He did a song on Drive-Thru Records, third release, which was called Christmas Gone Wrong, if I remember right. But it was called No War for Christmas or No War on Mars. It was something really stupid, and it was one of the dumbest songs that you'll ever hear in your life. It had one of those little sound effects toys that you would buy on a keychain with a pew pew pew, bing bing bing, and he made it into part of the song. It was fucking bananas.
That's amazing. Okay, well, I learned something already.
So after that, obviously, if they're touring on a new record, you can't go too long without playing something from the new record, so it doesn't feel like it's like a nostalgia trip. So I think Beer and Blood Saints is, my favorite off of that record. for Listen Up. So um, part of me just wants to see it right off the bat, but I do think that it's a strong opening kind of set for it. So you go from hit or miss to that, and I think it kind of bleeds right through, keeps the energy real high.
Nice. Yeah, agreed.
And
See
then
here, I was I put together what I thought was like, my list that I was going to rub in your face for missing. Uh, and Better Off Dead was I think the first song on my list. I went chronologically, so you had that next, which is just wonderful.
yeah, I mean it's another one where it's going to keep the energy kind of at a good spike and keep the pit moving for the entirety of the song at least. And again, it's from where I stand at least. I don't know, you're the musician. I'm just the guy who goes to the shows occasionally. But I feel like it's got to feel good when you have a crowd that right off jump goes and they kind of stay going for the first few songs.
No, absolutely. One of the last shows that my pop punk band ever played was opening for Newfound. As they played their self-titled record just front to back, and so that was a great memory for me, hearing all of these songs, and of course at the caliber that they were at the point that they were playing this entire tour. So love that song.
Awesome. And then the next one that I have up is just it's got a modern tone balance. I have Call Me Antisocial as the fourth track there. Um, and again, I think that it just kind of same way as Beer and Bloodstains does it. It keeps it from being too nostalgic, but it also keeps things fresh and moving along.
Hell yeah.
Um, but I do worry a little bit that I may have waited too long to drop an ad break. So let's do that now, and then we'll come back with the next set of tracks.
Call them antisocial. That's not funny.
All right, perfect. All right, so coming back in, I think that when you get to the middle of the set, it's nice to have a bit of a balance and a little bit of you got to catch your breath somewhere along the way. Um, but I think the Frankenstein kind of maintains that high energy for a little bit,
Mm-hmm.
but it's just down enough in terms of the tone to be good. And because it's one of the newer songs, you're going to have the people that have fallen off over the last 15 years in terms of their fandom probably not be as into it. But I think that this is a good way to help keep them back on track with it. And it bleeds right into Dress to Kill, which might be my favorite song of the self-titled.
Yeah, I think I agree.
And then you have to have some Nothing Gold Can Stay on there. So I like Never Sometimes. It's got some energy to it, but it's very raw and an emotional tone. Um, Obviously, it's got the credibility as a bit of a deep cut, so it doesn't just feel like it's pandering. And then there's a bit of an emotional ship with it. I think that's again, that's important for the musicians themselves as well as the people in the crowd.
Well, and I think, you know, I love watching an old punk band play one of their oldest songs and just crushing it to death. Like playing it better than you can hear it on their original release because they've just technically gotten so much better since then. So I always look forward to moments like that.
Yeah, I mean, there's a reason that you became a fan to begin with, and it's good when they kind of bring that back. So the next one, it's a bit of a mid-tempo kind of a bridge song, just between tracks. But I think the 47 from Not Without a Fight fits here. Um, it keeps the flow, but it doesn't get tired. Uh, and I wanted to have something from Not Without a Fight, and I'm not really a fan of the record, so I feel like it's the best one to squeeze in here and kind of shoehorn something that I don't know necessarily should fit, but because of the rules that we set for ourselves, I'm going to follow them.
Right on, yeah.
Um,
Well, I think 47 is kind of like the antithesis of Chad screaming in a song. Like they turned it into the entire hook. So I could see a crowd going nuts for that.
and then from there right into Summer Fling Don't Mean a Thing, which again it's got a bright reset to it. Um, it kind of brings you back and keeps the show from becoming too heavy, but it keeps the crowd energy up.
Yeah, that's nice. And then we gonna God, every time a song is from Sticks and Stones, I'm like, oh yeah, I love that song. So you have Sunny here next, which same thing. Like, I don't think there's a song on that record that they can't introduce like the first 10 seconds of without everybody singing along to it. And
Right.
that
And
song
I think
is
that Sunny is probably their best crowd sing along of that era of Newfound Glory. So
hell yeah.
obviously you mentioned that they're kind of anthemic to begin with, but I think that that's the one from the Sticks and Stones era.
When I was so someone at the bar this weekend was giving me a hard time about this genre of music. Most notably the like the early mid thousands when the genre kind of took a dive where it's like you broke up with me, so I hope you wreck your car so I can like take a dump on your dead body, and like
Yeah.
the like violent ex girlfriend, like, can't believe you cheated on me. I want to poop on your mom's
Yeah.
grave.
All the guys that wrote it now, they live in Texas and they run podcasts.
Yeah. So isn't it refreshing to look back at this catalog? All the hits, they're about love and I guess what we'll call the status quo of pop punk songwriting, but it's aged so wonderfully.
Yeah, there's very few who do it. I'm not a fan of Dashboard Confessional, but I think that he's another one where his shitty middle school poetry, like it works as shitty middle school poetry in 2001 and to now. You don't have. I hope your plane crashes and you get some sort of STI while I'm screwing a 12-year-old girl,
We
or
really need to
whatever it
start
was
a
that Jesse Lacey used to sing.
yeah. We need to start a brand new cover band. or what's the opposite of a tribute band?
I believe it's called a shipbreak.
What a band where we write songs about how we wish Jesse Lacey would wreck his car so we could take a dump on his grave for being dumped by a high school girl. Wow, this is all getting recorded, huh?
Yeah, it is. All right, awkward silences and all. Uh, so the next thing that I threw in there was scarier than Jason Voorhees off of Forever and Ever and Infinity. Um, it's another one. It's got a good speed to it. It keeps the pacing alive. There's a sense of humor that kind of feeds off of the sentimentality of Sunny. Um, doesn't let anyone get too deep into their feelings.
Yeah. I'm gonna so just real quick, this next like pile of songs here, you're gonna have to tell me what records these are off of because this might be in that weird glory hole of time in which I wasn't listening to their releases.
All right, well, the next one I have you should know because that's from Screen to Stereo Part One, and that's The Glory of Love from Karate Kid Part Two.
Yes, I'm familiar with that. It's a
Um,
good cover to choose. I was curious what covers you were going to go with because they have such a array of them.
yeah, you put out three EPs plus your track on the Disney thing, and a cover up Blitzkrieg Bop was on one of the deluxe editions of their stuff. So they've done a good amount. Obviously, I think that the Screen to Stereo covers are kind of their groove when it comes to covers, and I think that this is the absolute top of all of them. Um, there's not really a better cover that they do than when they do it all for the glory of love.
Hell yeah! So tell
And
me
then
about
that,
Boom Roasted. What is
yeah,
this?
so Boom Roast It. It's the first track off of the new record. Listen Up. Um, so it's got like a break in the emotional tone from where we have been. It keeps the pacing from kind of stalling out, and obviously it's got the Michael Scott reference that keeps people with a smile on their face no matter what.
Absolutely.
And then the next one is Telltale Heart, which I'm surprised to hear you lumped it into that group that you didn't know, but that's off of That's Nothing Cold Can Stay.
Okay. So
That's the one where in the middle of it they go. "Blah, blah, blah, blah."
I am a poser, and I just kind of listen to that record, and Cyrus, that's the drummer's name, right?
Yep.
Cyrus wasn't great at drums yet. I thought he kind of struggled on that record. And me and my friends were like big buttholes and like didn't listen to it very much because of that. And the only reason I'm bringing that up now is because there's like drum cam after drum cam of Cyrus just destroying his kit and playing
Yeah,
flawlessly. So it's
I feel like
interesting.
he's always been amazing. So I don't know if it's just that I don't have the ear for what you had or what, but I can't think of any time where I wasn't blown away by what he's able to do on the kit.
Well, there you go. He was playing for you then, not a bunch of buttholes in Nebraska.
um, yeah. So I think it's time that we just take another quick break because Jeff is shelling out for this, and I'm sure he'd like to make a little bit of the money back on it. All right, and then coming back from Telltale Heart, I think that the next track that we should do should get a little bit out there in terms of what you're used to from a Newfound Glory set, and that's Madball's got her back off of the international superheroes of hardcore.
Now,
I think it injects a good level of chaos to the show, keeps you from getting too fatigued,
yeah,
and it kind of breaks the expectations for anyone who went there expecting to just see Newfound Glory when you get to have their alter egos come out.
I was always curious if they did anything significant with that release, because as far as like we're doing instrument changes and like Chad's basically the lead singer, right?
Hmm.
So like there's some great songs on that,
Well, it's
and
not Chad; it's Captain Street Edge.
oh yeah, sorry, uh, but I didn't know if they had ever really shown off that record very much. I think that they did a couple of the tunes, the faster, shorter ones on the Newfound Glory side. I think I saw them play during some Warped dates, but
Yeah, I'm sure they played off the tip of the iceberg. I don't know that I've ever seen them play international superheroes of hardcore stuff,
yeah,
but that's kind of part of the appeal for me.
hell yeah, I love it.
Um, and then we go into another track off of the new record, so laugh it up or laugh it off. Obviously, again, you're touring a new record. You can't not play the tracks off of the new record. You have to give it a lot of representation, and I think the laugh it off kind of is a good transition out of the chaos from Captain Straight Edge. It levels out the emotions again, and then it kind of just gets everybody back to center. And then we go back into another cover. Uh, this one is of "Stay, I Missed You," originally by Lisa Loeb and Nine Stories on the Reality Bites soundtrack. Obviously, it's got a good amount of sing along to it. There's some vulnerability into it, and it's a familiar hit for everyone that's been born after 1988, I believe.
Hell yeah. Yeah, I saw Lisa Loeb on the Full House reboot.
Did you? My wife saw her when she went to go see some daytime TV show in the city do its recording, and she got not the good record, but another record of hers that she enjoyed. I love Lisa Loeb. I have said it multiple times, and I will not stop saying it. And actually, I think that you're the right person to say it to. I think that there should be a compilation cover of just 12 different artists doing "Stay, I Missed You,"
Yeah,
in
that's
their own
great.
little genres. And if I know correctly, you are in at least 12,000 bands, so you could probably put this all together by yourself. My birthday's in September.
Okay. Um, we're gonna need to master it, so it might be like late September.
Yeah, that's perfect. 30th.
So I noticed this. So my daughter like hears music on Roblox or whatever it is that she plays or YouTube, and then she gets on my Spotify account that she uses, and finds the song that she wants to hear. And so occasionally, what I'm trying to listen to isn't on Tidal, and I finally have to like be a butthole and like use Spotify or whatever. Because my farts smell better than anybody else's. But I pick up my Spotify app and it's all just caked with my daughter's Descendants and Zombies music and shit. And I go to search for an artist and I see her search history. And I saw her aggressively search and listen to like 7 different versions of I Will Survive to find the original version of it. And it kind of got me thinking about bands like Newfound Glory that have this just endless supply of cover songs that like How many kids on Roblox heard "I Will Survive," wanted to hear it, heard the Cake song, and said like, you know what, this is better. Uh, and
Any
same
with
thing's
taste, I
got
would
to
think.
happen. Yeah. Well, and I think that Newfound Glory, especially with the stay, and there's another song they did a Goo Goo Dolls cover maybe or something on one of their records that like they stayed so true to the original that when you play them back to back, like theirs has like a better sonic quality because it came out like 10, 20
Hmm.
years later. But for the most part, they stayed true enough that it almost sounds like the singer just singing karaoke, like on top of the original song. Which
Well, so I mean, Lisa Loeb does appear on From Screen to Stereo to do this one with them.
that's true.
Um, so it really is the singer just doing it,
So
not as
imagine,
karaoke, but she's
yeah.
karaokeing over their version of it.
So she like got off work early at the auto parts store that she works at now, and
Stop
like
it. She's a
and like
superstar. She's hanging
went in
out
the
with Ethan Hawke.
studio, went in the studio, and like had a chance to sing her song into a more expensive microphone in a nicer studio and get a better product than her original. Like that is living the dream, my friend.
I cannot go along with it. I will never say a bad thing about her. So I'm insulted and offended, and I just don't like it. I think that, you know, it's not your fault, which oddly enough is actually the next track that's on my list here. Um, so it's a bit of an emotional peak. There's a reflective tone, obviously, and it slows everything down a bit.
That was a really good segue, and
Right?
that is a nice emotional shift for them as well. And of course, we gotta like hype the shit up. They're gonna say this is their last song, right? And there's
Yeah.
no way
So
they or we have an encore plan.
I have an issue with all the encores, and I'm sure that everybody kind of knows the route that I'm going with it. But every time you go there, you're not going to go see uh, whatever band it is. You're not going to go see Devo, and they're not going to play Whip It and go, oh, I guess it's time to leave. Um,
Yeah.
but My Friends Over You is their typical closer, so I feel like it shouldn't be an encore song. I feel like it should be the set proper closer, and then let the encore be that extra for the people that are going to stick around.
Well, and let me remind you, the gentlemen in this band, they're getting up there in their years, and like I can't play that many songs without having to pee at least twice. So, like, let them pee. In fact, while our president and Kim Kardashian are convincing everybody that it's awesome to be the most deplorable, offensive person in the world, I say we go to petition.org and we change society on a social way. We change the word encore performance to just like piss break.
All right, we can definitely do that. You get it started.
Yeah, I'm typing it right now.
um, but yeah, so I mean, you play the song that everyone expects to be the end, and just when you think that they're done, they're not. Um, I think that that's the right way to go. Let them all come off stage. Let one or two of them come back on with an acoustic guitar and play something off and make the most of it. So I put in I've Got Plans. Now, I've Got Plans. Obviously, it deals a lot with Chad's cancer diagnosis, and it's not necessarily a happy-go-lucky, big smile type of song. But I think it is a terribly well-written song
Mm-hmm.
that really doesn't get the appreciation that it deserves. Um, and since you brought up Cyrus's music capacity, I the last time that I saw Newfound Glory was when they were touring the acoustic record. And obviously, if you're touring an acoustic record, you don't need a drummer. So Cyrus was on stage as a guitarist. Um, and every single member of the band pointed out how he was the one that kind of taught them how to play a certain part of the song, and how he's kind of the best of the guitarists in the band as well.
That's
I
awesome.
think that it actually came up on Krista Meek's episode as well, podcast as well. But I think it's awesome when your drummer is better at something else and still such a great drummer and so well respected within the scene.
Hell yeah, yeah.
And then I think we close it out with Sincerely Me and All Downhill From Here. You kind of have that classic era. You get the good crowd reactions. It's a good balance, and you leave with a lot of emotion and motion itself.
See, that's what's interesting. I'm talking about especially Sticks and Stones and the self-titled record, like having like being full of hits. In that same reality, I'm looking at your like must-haves from those two records, or even Catalyst, I guess in this case with Downhill. Uh, I feel like there could be other ones, and it's not to say that your list isn't great, but I wanted
No,
to go
Mikey,
over.
why don't you tell me now? What did I fuck up and miss?
Well,
Don't be nice. Just pussyfoot right into it.
so it depends on tempo, right? Like you pick some bangers, but there are like three flavors of Newfound Glory bangers, and you kind of addressed one of them, which is like kind of the anthemic 4/4 heavy songs. They have like the jumpy ass songs where like the whole crowd can like jump with them. All About Her on the self-titled record is like the epitome of that. I think that every Fall Out Boy, Blink, Homegrown, every band like that that was around at the time that that song came out tried to emulate that in some manner or another, and that song would have been a great catalyst for that. I'm so sorry.
I see what you did there.
I know that Catalyst might not be your favorite record, but Truth of My Youth is the best Newfound Glory song. From a technical musician standpoint, it is the perfect pop punk song. I mean, I don't think anybody ever did it any better.
Well, I respect your opinion, but I do have a question about it, and that is, how does one get to be so goddamn wrong all the time? It's a
But
good song. I don't know about all that perfect.
I, maybe I'm listening for something too that like listeners don't necessarily listen to, but like my entire band would sit in our tour van and listen to that song and repeat. And like our bass player, our singer, our drummer, everybody was impressed with what their instrument was portraying in that song. It's like a kitchen sink of like go-to pop punk tricks to use on every one of those instruments and the vocals, and it's just a winner, man. And then while we're talking about fast ass tempos, Never Give Up off Sticks and Stones is like a quick double time song. Truck Stop Blues on Not Without a Fight, super quick double time, like Circle Pit double time songs. Truck Stop Blues has a very special place for me and my friends as well, because that song's about like missing your girl on tour. So we got to like type that into our girlfriend's MySpace inbox and like feel really cool. Failure's Not Flattering is one of my favorite songs from that Catalyst era. It's catchy. It's got synthesizer on it. And for me personally, I told you that we used to like, we found out very early on that you could just park your van and trailer outside of every Van's Warped Tour and just carry your guitars in and then just become a band that was on Warped Tour.
Yep.
The only catch was that you had to go to Warped Tour at like 9, 10 o'clock in the morning before people were coming in. And so while I was trying not to die of heat stroke, I listened to Newfound Glory practice Failure's Not Flattery with Warren Fitzgerald from the Vandals, because he was capable of playing synthesizer, and I think they wanted synth on it, and they practiced it for about 4 hours in the dead of heat while I just sat and like, oh, they're playing it again. I couldn't get enough of it because I was seeing, my hero, Mutant Boy from the Vandals, playing with this like poser pop punk band that like he's way too punk for, and it brought that like punk rock and the pop punk rivalry I had in my own brain in high school into the same stage. So it was a wonderful, wonderful memory. So I can't not hear that song.
All right.
Hold My Hand is adorable, and I would be in a bad place with my wife if I didn't bring up a song like that. Tangled Up is on Not Without a Fight. That's also, I think, one of my like top 3 Newfound Glory songs. there's something really special about it. It feels like a really good Gin Blossom song or something, but done in the manner of a pop punk band.
All
So
right.
it's heavy, but it kind of like gets you in the feels the way like the end of Empire Records does, if that makes sense. And then yeah, my wife took the phone out of my hand. Makes me sick. Party on Apocalypse. Call me antisocial. Those are more of like the so cute, I want to kill myself sides of their discography as they started to kind of add more synth elements and stuff a little bit further down the road. But this is my private showing, I guess, at this point with these songs, right?
I mean, look, I'm a firm believer that we're all going to kind of have different things, and it's going to be based on when we discovered it and what we were doing at the time. So, 2004 when Catalyst came out, I was at that point I was on my way to finishing up college. I was working full time trying to support college. I was doing all of that stuff, and music just it wasn't at as much of a premium to me as it was when I was younger, or as it is now when I have a need to escape everything else and kind of go back to the shit that I was into when I was younger. Um, so I think that there was a good middle ground where if I was 2 years younger, I probably would have really, really enjoyed it. It just didn't hit for me at the time, and it never was really something I felt the need to go back to as much as I probably should have.
Well, and, Taylor Swift kind of ruined the word era, I think, for musicians to use.
If you're going to continue to talk shit about all the queens in life, I'm going to get really upset here. Let's go on poorly today, Michael.
Uh, well, if you want to do a Kesha specific episode, I'm all in for that one.
She was a Bananas live show, I will say that.
She is my Bananas live show in my heart. Uh, but when you and I were talking about Bayside, we had a similar disconnect, right? There's like the old Bayside with the old drummer, and then
Mm-hmm.
there's the new Bayside, like post car accident, and it's like this kind of really touchy subject that people don't like to talk about, but it's there. And then the break of like independent music, uh, the complete dissolving of these independent in air quotes records that were being bought out by like Geffen and all this shit, right? So we have like similar situations here with New Found Glory where we have like they were too young to play their instruments perfectly, and then they got really good, and then they got super poppy, and then they got like this weird, like kind of hardcore push. They have always had this strange, like
I mean, Chai came from Shia Lud, so
yeah, but yeah, so like the collection of hardcore fans were there, and it kind of influenced the like happy hardcore breakdowns with him yelling, right? And then they had a very significant lineup change that is touchy and people don't want to talk about it. But the result of the music that came after that is a band that didn't want to replace their second guitar player, but rather started writing with the three pieces they had. And that is where the like ultra pop and like the like 3 chord Green Day style songs of their newer music come in, or the introduction of synth and like extra percussion and stuff to kind of fill that sonic void. So if you look at it from afar, or if you look at it, as a 42-year-old that hasn't listened to the band or thought about them in a long time, it really makes those shifts in their career very obvious if you have their discography open in front of you. And it's fascinating.
it is. And I feel like there's a chance that we do come back to that second guitarist as a thing that they do. I know that the last time I saw them, not only was it acoustic, but they did have four guitarists. So Cyrus and then Alan from 4 Year Strong was another guitarist that was up there, along with Ian and why the fuck am I forgetting the name? Whomever the other person was, Jordan, the
Yeah,
singer.
yeah. Well,
Um,
I think that interestingly enough, I've thought about this a lot, right? So they had some bad news about a member of their band. I don't know that guy's name, and I never knew it. He was like Hat Guy.
he was Hat Guy. I do know his name. I don't know if we want to give him the plug, but it was Steve.
Okay.
Because Steve is that name that you're gonna have that happen with.
I just
Um,
think I don't think I'm alone in that, and I think that the band recognized how much he was just like the fifth body on stage, and so to disassociate themselves, rightfully so, they did the right thing. They severed the
Absolutely.
relationship and they completely moved on. But I think that they caught on very quickly that because anybody could pick up the second guitar parts in A Newfound Glory, like any of these songs, and do a
Well, not
great
only
job.
that, he was the primary lyricist as well.
But as far as like just visually speaking, I was kind of like, oh, if they replace that guy with like another just John with a hat on, then like people are going to throw tomatoes at him. They're going to be like, oh, it's the bad guy, and like just have no idea. And then every single show, they'd either deal with that awkwardness or deal with them being like, hey, like you can't come out on stage at the beginning of every night and be like, hey, just so you guys know, every guy that's on stage tonight is a good dude. So, like, as somebody that grew up with, well, Penny Bridge pioneers being like the apex of two guitar playing pop punk music,
Hmm.
and hearing those elements in Newfound Glory's discography growing up, it hurt a lot when that second guitar disappeared from the mix, but I understood. I understood why. And but then it was like, so are we just grieving now? Is it just the band continuing on without an additional guitar player until the end of time because of the awkwardness and because of the like bad story behind it? And I don't really know what to say about it.
Yeah, I mean, I loved the original sound, the first two records. I wish that people weren't pieces of shit and could just continue to do the things that I enjoy them doing and not do the shit that nobody should have any inclination to want to do. Um, but unfortunately, that's not the world we live in. Um, but I don't want to get into the negativity talk much further. You've already ruined things by talking shit on Lisa Loeb and Taylor Swift, and I feel like Sabrina Carpenter and Olivia Rodrigo are next in your crosshairs. I don't want to deal with it.
No, they're cool.
So who's the next band that you think that we should do this with?
Oh shit. Well, so I have a dream
All right, Martin.
that I've had since this morning. Um, I've had it much longer than that. I've made with my weird friends. I'm a proud fan of newer Weezer music. I think that if you grab a machete and jump out of the helicopter into new Weezer albums and start hacking away, there's some really, really beautiful stuff hidden inside of some of the worst shit I've ever heard in my life. So it's always been my goal, since they're the color themed album band, to make the solid gold Weezer 10 song album out of their newer stuff, and maybe a silver. And then for fun, a 10 song Poop Brown album of the 10 worst Weezer songs that have ever been attempted to be released.
I
Since I
think we
came
can
up
make
with
that
this
happen.
idea, well, since I came up with this idea 15 or some years ago, they've put out a lot more music. So it is a daunting task. And not just because I'm trying to be a prick about bad Weezer songs, because there are over 20 really good new Weezer songs nowadays.
You sound a little bit like Leslie Jones there, but yeah.
Hey, thank you.
So I mean, I think we could definitely make sure that that's something that we get to in the coming months, and I think we're going to find out how we did with our picks on Newfound Glory when they're out on the road with the Up Up Down Down tour with Yellowcard and Plain White Tees and I Am the Avalanche.
Yeah,
Um,
they're playing in Omaha in 7 days.
all right, June 12th and June 19th in New Jersey at the Stone Pony Summer Stage.
Yeah, May 19th in Omaha. Uh, I think my daughter has taekwondo that day, so I hope they have a great show.
June 12th, I hope they have a great show, and I hope that I get to attend it. And June 19th, I know that I'm not available, so I won't be there for that one. But that's the first day at Camp Pennsylvania, which is obviously something I look forward to every year, and I know we've discussed in the past.
But in the meantime, we're going to be putting all these songs up on our Spotify playlists, the Newfound Glory Dream set list, and maybe we'll let Ed put a couple of my honorable mentions on.
Yeah, I could put a good amount of Taylor Swift and Lisa Loeb on there for you. I'm sure that we could find some B-sides.
Look, I said some shitty things about Taylor Swift and Lisa Loeb on this podcast, guys, but I want you to know I really don't have a problem with Lisa Loeb.
Michael, how dare you? All right. Mike, thanks a lot.
Yeah, yeah. You know what we should do? We should say that we're going to get together and talk about making the best Fall Out Boy set list ever. And then it should just be take this to your grave, front to back. And we shouldn't like point that out. And then that should just be at the end of the set list.
I thought you were doing a little bit of a Wet Hot American Summer there, but I'll take that too.
So I found the Take This to Your Grave like anniversary reissue edition on like blue vinyl. And I bought it for my wife. And it's sitting in our room, still sealed because we don't have a way to listen to it. But, God, that record's great. That's a good record.
It's a fun one.
And the more I listen to it as an old person, there's some of that like car wrapped around a tree, your ex-boyfriend or blah. There's some of that like weird violent stuff. But for the most part, it's really smart. The lyrics are all
He's unbelievably witty.
Yeah, yeah. And this was at a time that like we used to make like pop punk bingo when we used to write JV All Star songs. We're like, oh, they said memories. Oh, they're talking about their best friends. Oh, they just shit on their like small town that they grew up in. Like, oh, like there were so many boxes to check in like every like messed song that just kind of like castrated the punk part of pop punk music, in my opinion. But amongst all of that, there are some great gems that these types of bands have put out, and I need to remind myself of that and not be a fucking asshole about it.
So, yeah, real quick offshoot of that story, just because you mentioned Mest. We had done a written interview with Tony from Mest probably about 3 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the questions that I asked without really paying attention to what I was doing was just like, what's one of the biggest regrets that you have? After I hit send, I went, this is the guy who killed a man.
Yeah.
That should probably be an obvious answer. That wasn't the answer. It had to
yeah.
do with like how he went out and networked and the way that they put out. And I couldn't imagine that if you kill a man, that's not your biggest regret, but this is the world.
I think that that's just the type of thing that like you just don't talk about ever again.
All right.
Like, I know, like, there's a dude that played in a band that I used to play shows with a lot, and he's a cool dude, and now he's like a guitar tech. But he was like with those dudes when all that shit was going down. And really, Tony just made like one mistake. He like got his ass kicked by his girlfriend's new boyfriend. He went home and grabbed a knife just in case and went back. Like if he hadn't made that decision.
Yeah, I don't think that he did it with the intent of legitimately killing. I don't think there's a reason he wasn't put away for very long.
Well, he went back and like I think like feared his life, but I think was trying to make some sort of a weird point. And then the guy started beating him again, and I think like he feared for his life, and the rest happened. You know, I've never been in a fight before, and I don't have a lot of pride when it comes to stuff like that. So it sounds like he made a really stupid decision.
Mm-hmm.
But I remember when all that went down. I would assume if he's trying to continue to play music, that's probably the last question he wants to.
Yeah. I didn't mean to bring it up. I just wasn't thinking, and it was one of those evergreen standby questions that I use.
I would hope more so that he read it and was like, I know this motherfucker isn't asking me about what I think he's asking me about. I'll just send him my generic like networking answer back. But no, it's interesting. And it's difficult when you get into the nit and gritty with nothing real punk going on with Mest, right? Like real kind of.
I don't know. He had a bunch of nautical star tattoos. I mean, there's.
Well, that's my point. It's like they like look fucking hard as shit, and then like their music sounds like Backstreet Boys with like guitars, and I like it. I'm not shitting on it, but like, remember when Plus 44 finally like played a live show, and you're like, who are like, does Travis Barker just have like a collection of like scary looking tattooed guys? But then you're like seeing them sing along, and you're like, well, there's nothing tough about this guy if he's hanging out with Mark Hoppus and like singing this song. He just looks really punk or something. And it's a scary, it's kind of like a sad thing about growing older, right? And realizing that like the guy from Rancid that looks like maybe he killed a guy, like actually like sleeps with a sound machine and a knee pillow, and like, and the guy from Mest actually stabbed somebody to death. Like, what a sad reality that is. If we're gonna throw around the word punk, like in its truest meaning, like Sid and Nancy doing heroin and dying because they don't give a fuck because that's like punk or whatever, and then like, yeah, everybody starts getting older, and eventually everybody's either a joke or a poser or whatever, and it's pretty funny. But
No. I'm gonna hit stop now. But you know, thanks a ton. This was great.
yeah,
And
yeah, yeah.
yeah.
I always just cut it. I would cut it back when I made fun of Taylor Swift the last time.
Nope. I'm gonna cut out every word that you said about her.
Okay.
You're a monster.